Hey movie fans, so it looks like we finally have a villain reveal for the next Superman movie, Superman Man of Tomorrow, or in this case just titled Man of Tomorrow, which is interesting enough because according to James Gunn, it'll be more told from Lex Luthor's perspective. Now Lex will not be the villain this time around, which is an interesting change of pace, but it is another highly requested Superman villain that we've been begging to see on the big screen for the longest time now, with Brainiac, allegedly, but it seems pretty confirmed at this point. I cannot be more excited about this. Brainiac seems like one of those characters that's forever a bridesmaid, but never a bride. All those like Superman projects never got off the ground. Their sequels seem to be hinting that they'd be getting Brainiac. We had that Nicolas Cage movie that never happened that would have had Brainiac. Allegedly, Henry Cavill would have fought Brainiac if his franchise would have kept going. It's a character that is iconic to the Superman mythos that just has not been done properly on the big screen. We've gotten some small screen adaptations. We had that version that was on Smallville that was and a surprisingly decent version on Krypton considering the budget. Well, now we're finally getting a big screen adaptation of Brainiac. So that raises the question, who should play the titular character? Who should play one of the greatest Superman villains of all time? Well, today I'm going to give you my top 7 picks for who I think should play Brainiac in Man of Tomorrow. But before we get into it, I want to hear from you guys. Who are your picks for this iconic Superman bad guy? Who do you think would be perfect for the role? Now, something to keep in mind both for this video and for your casting choices, it does seem like this will be a on-screen character and not just a CGI character that will be voiced over later on. It seems like this will be an actual physical portrayal, which I think is the right move to go, but it does eliminate some names. So, all that in mind, let's get into it. Kicking us off at number 7 is the name that I'm the least emotionally tied to, but I would not complain in the slightest if he ended up getting cast for the role, and that is Hugo Weaving. Now, Hugo Weaving, for a while there, just seemed to be that if you need a bad guy for your big blockbuster nerdy franchise, you went with Hugo Weaving. He's been Megatron in Transformers, Red Skull in Captain America, The Matrix. He's been in all these major franchises, but why he's at number 7 and not higher on the list is, one, he is up there in years and we might want to go with someone slightly younger, but 2, in recent years, he seems like he's been wanting to step away from the major franchises and kind of do more passion projects, things that he's more excited about. He's openly stated he's never coming back to Red Skull ever again after that first movie. In fact, that wasn't even him in Infinity War. It was somebody else because he refused to come back. I still think he would be a fantastic choice. He has that voice. He has the presence. When it comes to Brainiac, a voice is a big part of it for me. The voice and the overall presence. I do not need him to be a giant hulking thing. I need him to be more cold and calculating and analytical because, you know, robot. Hugo Weaving isn't necessarily the biggest, buffest dude, but he has presence, he has the voice, he has used that voice to carry multiple performances, but that doesn't take away from his actual acting ability, in which case he still leaps and bounds above a lot of other people of his generation. He is a phenomenally gifted actor and a fantastic gifted actor in villain roles. If Hugo Weaving got cast as Brainiac, I would rejoice, and I think that would be a lot of fun, and I think he could be a great menacing presence, the likes of which we've never seen for Brainiac. At number 6, I'm gonna go with Rhys Ifans, best known to the general population for Amazing Spider-Man being the Lizard, and also, you know, Spider-Man No Way Home for voicing the character. I don't even know if they came back for that movie or if it was just recycled footage or not. This dude is kind of one of those under the radar names. Yeah, he's on House of the Dragon right now, but he's always kind of been the background bit player. I know he's also, for some reason, in Venom: The Last Dance, but the role that I always think of for him is Amazing Spider-Man with the Lizard, and he's really good at it. For some reason, though, both Amazing Spider-Man and his role in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, he has this weird voice that I really don't mind for Brainiac. It's raspy and slightly cold and analytical and a little distant. He always kind of comes across a little bit odd, which would be right up the alley of Brainiac because, you know, not human. I'm not saying necessarily that Xenophilius Lovegood needs to be Brainiac, but I think there's enough shared similarities there of not necessarily knowing how to act human and kind of coming across as cold and distant. I like Amazing Spider-Man, the first one. Amazing Spider-Man 2, less so, but I thought the Lizard was a great role, and I thought Rhys Ifans was actually spectacular in that he has this personality that's so distinctly him. It's hard to describe, but you know what I mean. And that voice, I think, could really do wonders. Plus, you know, he's used to being a green villain in a comic book movie. Is it a little bit of a leap? Yeah, probably, but I think he's a very underrated talent that I could see doing Brainiac well. Next, at number 5, is the name that there's absolutely no way he's signing on the dotted line to play Brainiac, but I don't care, I want him regardless, and that is Michael Fassbender. Yes, he already has that nerd cred with the Fox X-Men prequel movies playing Magneto, and he played that role to perfection, even if I think the sequel movies didn't really know what to do with him. He kind of gets backseated quite a bit. But no, it's not actually the X-Men movies that land him on this list today. It's 2 specific movies. It's Steve Jobs, actually, and Prometheus, specifically Prometheus. Like, holy crap. But let's talk about Steve Jobs first. Steve Jobs is the movie besides the Fox X-Men movies that I look at going, oh, this guy's got talent. If you haven't seen it, look up the Steve Jobs movie with Michael Fassbender, not the Ashton Kutcher version, the Michael Fassbender version. There's a world of difference there. But something about this cold, calculating genius of a man was so good, mixed with Aaron Sorkin's writing. It was just chef's kiss. But something about that performance, something so detached from humanity, and I'm going, oh, you can play that stone cold faced, not killer, but just ruthless meticulousness that I think would be perfect for Brainiac. And then on the flip side, you get Prometheus/Alien Covenant with David, which he's literally playing an android, but not anything like I've seen before. His David in Prometheus is like the best thing in that entire movie. I didn't love Prometheus, but Michael Fassbender in it, yes, 1,000 times yes. Just basically port over David to the DC universe as Brainiac and change up the skin. Oh, I'm 1,000% on board. He's got this cold, analytical character that he does extremely well with little glimpses of humanity with his role in Steve Jobs. But Michael Fassbender is a phenomenally gifted actor that I would love to stay in the superhero bubble, even if he's not going to be doing Marvel stuff. I think they're going to recast him once Secret Wars is done, but I would love to see him stay in the superhero world and be given a full villain turn and not just kind of supporting stuff in other people's movies. I think he's so good. I think he'd be perfect for Brainiac. Next, at number 4, we have another out of left field pick, and like Michael Fassbender, I highly doubt this actor would ever actually accept this role just because they've moved on to bigger and better art housey things, but that doesn't stop him from being on this list today, and we're talking about Jeremy Strong, also known as Kendall Roy from Succession. Man, Succession was everywhere for a while there. I felt like everyone was like, have you seen Succession? Have you seen Succession? I've seen bits and pieces to know that I think he'd be great as Brainiac, just based off his Kendall Roy stuff, but that's not actually what lands him on this list today. A while back, Jeremy Strong was in a movie called The Gentleman, directed by Guy Ritchie. And this movie, holy crap, has a ridiculously stacked cast. You have Matthew McConaughey, Jeremy Strong, Charlie Hunnam, Colin Farrell, Hugh Grant. This movie is just ridiculously stacked. And I won't give you too much, but at the end of it, Jeremy Strong is a pretty key and pivotal character to the story. And it's something about his line delivery and mannerisms in The Gentleman that I'm going, oh, okay, I can see you're a slightly different version of Brainiac. He clearly wouldn't have the physical attributes, but like we've already established, I don't necessarily need Brainiac to have the physical attributes. That can be done with CGI, but we still need a physical presence. In The Gentleman, he has this cold, calculated, analytical character to him that I'm going, okay, yes, I see the Brainiac-isms in this character. Is it the strongest argument? Not necessarily, but then you go look at Succession and you see he clearly has the acting ability. He's got the pedigree, he's got the talent. I think he would be a very interesting and out of left field pick. But again, he's clearly moved on to very bigger and better things. He's one of the big, like, prestigious acting names out there, and I don't know if he would jump in like feet first into the world of comic book movies, but I think if he did, he would be a really interesting and intriguing Brainiac compared to a lot of the other names we're going to talk about today. Next in the 3 spot is the only name that actually immediately came to mind when I was making this list, and that is Zachary Quinto, also known as Spock in the J.J. Abrams Star Trek trilogy. This guy is not necessarily my favorite actor in the world, and also, I didn't particularly love his Spock. I think Leonard Nimoy's is significantly better. And I also didn't love him in some other stuff. He actually voiced Lex Luthor in a bunch of DC animated stuff. And I hate his Lex Luthor so much. I don't think the voice is right. But it's because I hated his Lex Luthor voice so much that I immediately thought of him for Brainiac. His voice matches a Brainiac type character so much better, I think. Something about it is cold and clinical and analytical and villainous. I understand why they went with him initially for Lex Luthor, but it doesn't match for me for Luthor. It fits perfectly for Brainiac. The character of Spock is not that much of a leap and a jump, I think, for Brainiac. Yeah, they're drastically different, like one's a hero, one's a villain, but this non-human side of things, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, he's kind of cold in his manner of speak for a lot of his characters, just cold, straight to the fact. He has a very specific vocal inflection and the way he talks and carries himself that I'm going, you are a perfect Brainiac. Didn't love you as Lex, but you might be a perfect Brainiac, especially, again, if we're getting a physical and not just CGI Brainiac. He fits that mold and would be, I think, a good option. Plus, I didn't even realize this until I was doing research for this video. He's used to already doing voice acting stuff, being Robot in Invincible. And I looked up some clips from that show of that role. I'm going, oh yeah, that would be perfect. I would be very much on board. I don't think this will happen, but I think he's a name that's more likely than some of the other names we've talked about. And I would very much be on board with Zachary Quinto as Brainiac, even if up till this point, I haven't been a big fan of his other stuff. I think Brainiac might be right up his alley though. Next up at number 2, the difficult thing with Brainiac is we don't really know where he's gonna line up age-wise because, you know, he's a robot. He can kind of be whatever age he needs to be. So for my number 2, I went with a slightly older actor, and well, at least older than Zachary Quinto and older than our number 1 pick, but that's Lars Mikkelsen. I've seen some people say Mads Mikkelsen. I'm going, no. Lars Mikkelsen is the way to go for Brainiac. So Lars Mikkelsen, I know him mostly from Sherlock. He played Charles Augustus Magnuson, and it was either season 3 or season 4 of Sherlock. Anything after season 2, I don't pay attention to. The first 2 seasons were great, and then it kept going. But Charles Augustus Magnuson as a villain was so fantastic. He is basically the antithesis to Sherlock, not in the sense that Moriarty was, but in the sense of controlled anarchy and chaos, and everything lives inside of his brain. He's cold and calculating and matter of fact in his speech. I loved his portrayal on that show so much. The whole season, not great, but that was a memorable villain and a good memorable follow-up to Moriarty, who's one of, you know, the greatest Sherlock villains of all time. But it's Charles Augustus Magnuson in connection with another role that he did both in voice acting and in live action with Grand Admiral Thrawn. Thrawn is not too distant from Brainiac in my mind. Just, you know, swap out the blue skin for green skin and we're kind of on board. Thrawn is always 3 steps ahead of his opponent at any given moment. That's Brainiac. Then, like I said, he transitioned perfectly from animation to live action in the Ahsoka show. I was so happy to see Thrawn there and see that we didn't really miss a step at all. The animated version is the live action version, and I would love to see that basically just be Brainiac. Lars Mikkelsen has this great, uncomfortably creepy voice and presence and aura about him that I'm going, yes, loved you as Thrawn, but I need you to take that next step and be Brainiac. I think he would be perfect. Which means I saved the best for last. I saved our number 1. I swear I didn't do this on purpose. At number 1, we have one, aka Henry Creel, aka Vecna, aka Jamie Campbell Bower. Maybe it's just because I've had Stranger Things on my mind because of the finale in a few days here, or the first part of the finale in a few days here, but I see him and I see Vecna and I'm going, okay, you are already used to the hours and hours of prosthetics. You are already used to being a villain, both in Stranger Things and then even further back in the Harry Potter days when he played Grindelwald in a very quick flashback that I'm pretty sure some of you forgot about. But his Vecna has immediately became one of the most iconic villains in modern television, which is, you know, incredibly hard to do when we just as a society don't really have a pop culture anymore. The fact that there is one villain that we all can immediately recognize and go, okay, Yeah, no, I don't want to mess with him. I love the voice. I love the acting. I love the portrayal, both when he is Vecna, but also when he's Henry Creel. The human form is still just as unsettling as the whatever we want to call Vecna form. Both of them are perfect. I think they're both play to his strengths as an actor and really show me that he could be a great Brainiac. He's got that creepiness, he's got that presence, and he's used to the prosthetics, which would be absolutely necessary for Brainiac. Plus, he's young enough that if they wanted to keep using him or bring him back for another appearance, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. He's still in that same age range of Lex Luthor, of Superman. We can kind of keep the bubble of, all right, these are the actors that are more or less around the same age for this universe. It wouldn't be a big leap in terms of age gap here. I think he's ridiculously talented. I think he's got a big future. I just like to see him as villains. I think Vecna is one of the most iconic villains in the modern day, and I think that level of talent could translate incredibly well and share a very similar skill set needed for Brainiac. But what do you guys think? What are your top picks for who should play Brainiac in the Man of Tomorrow movie or in other DC projects if he ever shows up in other things, potentially that Supergirl movie? Whatever your thoughts, let me know down in the comments below. As I like hearing from you guys. And as always, if you like what you see and want to see more, subscribe to the channel. And as always, stay sharp, movie guys and gals.